beautiful people. I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice, Volume 2, Chapter 14. Let's start now. The two gentlemen left Rosen the next morning, and Mr. Collins, having been in waiting near the lounges to make them his pattern. Let me look up this word. Obeisance was able to bring home the pleasing intelligence of their appearing in a very good health, and in as tolerable spirit as could be expected, after the let me look up this word. Melancholy scene so lately gone through at Rosen. To Rosens he had then hastened to console Lady Catherine and her daughter, and on his return brought back with a great satisfaction a message from her ladyship, importing that she felt herself so down as to make her very desirous of having them all to dine with her. Elizabeth could not see Lady Catherine without recollecting that had she chosen it, she might by this time have been presented as her future niece, nor could she think without a smile of what her ladyship's indignation would have been. What would she have said? How would she have behaved? Were questions with which she amused herself. The first subject was the diminution is it let me look diminution of the Rosing party. I assure you I feel it exceedingly, said Lady Catherine. I believe no one feels the loss of friends so much as I do, but I am particularly attached to these young men, and know them to be so much attached to me. They are excessively sorry to go, but they always are. The dear Colonel rallied his spirits tolerably till just at last, but Darcy seemed to feel it most acutely. More I think about last year, his attachment to Rosen steadily increases. Mr. Collins had a compliment, an allusion to throw in here, which were kindly smiled on by the mother and daughter. Lady Catherine observed after dinner that Miss Bennet seemed out of spirits, and immediately accounting for it herself by supposing that she did not like to go home again so soon, she added. But if that is the case, you must write to your mother to beg that you may stay a little longer. Mrs. Collins will be very glad of your company, I am sure. I am much obliged to your ladyship for your kind investi- invitation, replied Elizabeth, but it is not in my power to accept it. I must be in town the next Saturday. Why, at that rate, you would have been here only 6 weeks. I expected you to stay 2 months. I told Mrs. Collins before you came. There can be no occasion for your going so soon. Mrs. Bennet could certainly spare you for another fortnight. My father cannot. He wrote last week to hurry my return. Oh, your father, of course, may spare you, if your mother can. Daughters are never of so much consequence to a father. And if you will stay another month complete, it will be in my power to take one of you as far as to London, for I am going there early in June for a week. And as Johnson did not object to the bachelorette box, that would be very good room for one of you. But indeed, if the weather should happen to be cool, I should not object to taking you both, as you are neither of you large. You are all kindness, madam, but I believe we must abide by our original plan. Lady Catherine seemed resigned. Mrs. Collins, you must send a servant with them. You must. I always speak my mind, and I cannot bear the idea of two young women traveling posed by themselves. It is highly improper. You must contrive to send somebody. I have the greatest dislike in the world to that sort of things. Young men should always be properly guarded and attended according to their situation in life. When my niece Georgina went to Ramsgate last summer, I made a point of her having two men servants go with her. Miss Darcy, the daughter of Mr. Darcy of Pemberley, and Lady Anne could not have appeared with prosperity, propriety in a different manner. I am excessively act, act, attentive to all those things. You must send John with the young ladies, Miss Collins. I am glad it occurred to me to mention it, for it would really be discreditable to you to let them go alone. My uncle is to send a servant for us. Oh, your uncle? He keeps a manservant, does he? I am very glad you have someone who think of those things. Where shall you change horses? Or Bro- Bromley, of course. If you mention my name as the bell, you will be attached to it. Lady Catherine had many other questions to ask respecting their journey, and as she did not answer them all herself, attention was necessary, which Elizabeth believed to be lucky for her. Or with a mind so occupied, she might have forgotten where she was. Reflection might be reserved for her solitary hours. Whenever she was alone, she gave way to it as the greatest relief, and not a day went by without a solitary walk in which she might indulge in all the del- delights of unpleasant recollections. Mr. Darcy's letter she was in a fair way of soon knowing by heart. She studied every sentence, and her feelings towards its writer were at times widely different. When she remembered the style of his address, she was still full of indignation, and when she considered how unjustly she had condemned and upbraided him, her anger was turned against herself, and his disappointed feelings became the object of compassion. His attachment excited gratitude, his general character respect, but she could not approve him, nor could she for a moment repent her refusal or feel the slightest inclination ever to see him again. In her own past behavior, there was a constant source of vacillation, vacillation. Let me look it up. Vestation and regret, and in the unhappy defect of her family, a subject yet heavily gain grain. They were hopeless of remedy. Her father, contented with laughing at them, would never exert himself to restrain the wild digness of his youngest daughters, and her mother, which with manners so far from right herself, was entirely insensible of the evil. Elizabeth had frequently united with Jane in an endeavour to check the imprudence of Catherine and Lady Lydia, but while they were supported by their mother's indolence, indulgence, which what chance could there be of improvement? Catherine, weak spirited, irritable, and completely under Lydia's guardian, had been always affronted by their advice, and Lydia, self willed and careless, would scarcely give them a hearing. They were ignorant, idle, and vain. While there was an officer in Meryton, they would flirt with him, and while Meryton was within a walk of Longbourn, they would be going there forever. Anxiety on Jane's behalf was another prevailing concern, and Mr. Darcy's explanation by restoring Bentley to all her former good opinion heightened the sense of what Jane had lost. His affection was proved, proved to have been sincere, and his conduct cleared all of blame unless any could attach to the implicitness of his confidence in his friend. How gracious, how gracious then was the thought of that, of a situation so desirable in every respect, so repellent with advantage, so promising for happiness. Jane had been deprived by the folly and indecorum of her own family. When to these recollections was added the development of Wickham's character, it may be easily believed that the happy spirit which had seldom been depressed before were now so much affected as to make it almost impossible for her to appear tolerably cheerful. Their engagement at Rosings were as frequent during were as frequent during the last week of her stay as they had been at first. The very last evening was spent there, and her ladyship again inquired minutely into the particulars of their journey, gave them directions as to the best method of parking, and was so urgent on the necessity of placing gowns in the only right way that Maria thought herself obliged, on her return, to undo all the work of the morning and pack her trunk afresh. When they parted, Lady Catherine, with great condescension, wished them a good journey and invited them to come to henceforth again next year, and Miss de Bourgh exerted herself as fast to curtsy and hold out her hand to both. Okay, I'm done. I'm so proud of myself. And I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. I'm very proud of myself, and I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye bye.